Okay, everyone. I want to welcome you. Hold on a second. I want to welcome you to our first class for this year 2021. Lots to share with you tonight, okay? So, as it turns out, let me start at the beginning. So at the end of every year, I do an analysis of the year, trying to figure out what actually is the success, all the successes, the failures, and in what ways can I change anything if I need to, in order for me to enter to the coming here in a better way. I think a lot of people do exactly the same thing. But as a spiritual person, I go very deep. Now, it so happened toward the end of the year, I had an opportunity, and I'm saying it this way because it is an opportunity in a way, to have a student from one of my classes that was facing a dweller on the threshold challenge. Somebody that was taking the ascension class, and unbeknown to her, she was facing this challenge, and it was incorporating me and somebody else in the class in this challenge. Of course, there was blind spots, she couldn't see it because the dweller is manipulating her, right? So having gone through that experience, I knew that the fact that I was involved in this, everything that's happening in my life that's been brought to me is a mirror. So in a way, I must, and this was my query to myself, I must be going to an experience with the dweller right now, and I'm blind into it. I'm not seeing it. Because what you have to understand is that the dweller on the threshold, it's not a one-time thing. Although initially the first experience with it, particularly when you get into power increase, which is the first step of ascension, is the most challenging, the most blinding. But the test keeps repeating every time you reach a new plateau and you're about to crest up into a higher level of awareness. So as I'm leading all of you to this new path and we're all moving upwards, there has to be a part of me that's also, because if it's being mirrored in my life and it's being presented to me, I'm involved in this, there has to be a part of me that's involved in this as well. Because everything is in the outside that I'm experiencing is within. So I begin to examine all my relationship with everybody from this year. It took me a minute. And I begin to also understand with this qualification, what were the experiences that when I had them with people, interactions, where I feel unease, uncomfortable, or I cringed every time, let's say an individual were to talk to me, reach out to me, connect to me, what were the relationships that I felt internally toxic about, but I never expressed. I suppressed them. And a relationship showed up. This is something that's been going on for 6 months. And it's a connection, and part of it is that this individual was connecting to me in the guise of asking for help. And me with my big heart, wanting to save the world, was going in, yet the relationship was one-sided in the sense that this person, although saying, I appreciate this, thank you for helping me, blah, 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 this person was a taker. Never gave anything really back. It was just a toxic, because every time, you get an email or a text, it's like my stomach would cringe. That something is wrong. And I'm going to say something else to you. Toward the past 2 months, as I'm doing the release and the surrender, I release all attachment, fear, and control, and I surrender completely to great emptiness and luminosity. As I'm doing all of this, there's a voice in my body that says to me, you have cancer. Okay? And it was startling. Okay? And I know it was somewhere in my stomach, somewhere in my belly, or somewhere around there. And what I realized is that what that was, that cancer, was this toxic relationship. And it was so toxic for me that I didn't realize that it was eating away at me, because what I needed to do, I was not doing it. Because it connected to a blind spot in me, which is the self-sacrifice and the rescue, which is something that I have. Many of us share it, that I have, and I thought I licked it. I thought I got it. But you see, every time you're beginning to move to a higher plateau, the universe comes back to you and asks you, did you really learn this lesson? And in this case, the dweller showed up disguised as this person, as a way to kind of test me once more. When I realized this, I ended the relationship. I just laid out exactly what happened. This is the history, and block all email, all connection. I'm done. I'm finished. Okay? When I did this, I felt so incredibly empowered, like I had swallowed poison or lava, and I vomited it out. That's the best way I can describe energetically what it felt like to me. And I was waking up all the time in the middle of the night, because again, the unease, my body knew the truth, but I was not dealing with it, because my self-sacrifice program was playing a big part of this. And so when I was able to let go of all of this, I slept New Year's Eve like a child. I woke up New Year's Day feeling fantastic. I went on the long walk all the way down to Wall Street, and I came back. I was happy as a client. You couldn't be any more happy than I was. The next day, Meltem alerted me to the fact that the Schumann resonance, which is a measurement that measures the magnetic differential that exists between electric current on the surface of the Earth at the bottom and the polarity that's created in the ionosphere of the planet. And it creates a bubble or a sphere. And once that is created, it has a baseline of 7.83 hertz per second, hertz as the frequency of the Schumann resonance. January 2nd, it was 450 hertz. About a month ago, it was 800. And I have to tell you that scientists, because the website that tracks all of this, when I go on the website and I look, and the comments, the people who are tracking it cannot understand why. I read, there were 600 comments. I didn't read all 600, but I read maybe 10 or 15 of them. Nobody could understand or explain why. They're saying that the ionosphere is so charged, it looks like some sort of outside force or energy is coming in, charging it so much that it causes the power to increase to that degree. But that day, I felt like radiant fantastic. So fantastic and so radiant that the moment I got on the path, and I went on my walk on the Hudson River Park, the moment I got on the path, something said to me, take a picture. I took a picture of the sun. I took 2 pictures. I'll show them to you in a minute. Then later on, because I didn't realize what the camera captured, later on, as I kept on walking, there was a moment, the exact same thing that I'm going to picture, I'm going to show you, visibly to my eye. A half hour later on my walk, I saw the sun doing exactly the same thing to my eye, to my bare eye, not the camera. And I'm going to share with you what I saw. For those of you who have your camera on, you'll be able to see this. Okay. This is what the sun did. I took 2 pictures. This is the first one. Where's the second one? Let me minimize this. This is the second one. And I'm going to show you, because I blew it up, I'm going to show you a blow up of it. And I'm going to explain what I'm actually observing. If you pay attention to the picture, you will see there is one sun here. Right behind it, there is another sun. There's a halo, golden halo here. Then there's a bunch of other purple halos, smaller ones, that are right behind each other. There's a bigger purple halo, and behind it, off screen, there's another kind of bluish halo. All of it in one shot. And if you look at the shot, I'm going to go back to the shot. Everything is in perfect focus, except the sun is now capturing, the camera is capturing something else. I have to say to you that picture kind of like baffled me for a moment. But not completely surprising, because when I was walking a half hour later, I looked at the sun. I was going to take a picture. It's just that it was windy, I was cold, and I needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't want to put my hand in my pocket to get the phone and take a picture again, because I thought, oh, if I get more cold, I'm going to pee on myself on the walk. I'm not going to get my hands out of my pocket. I'm just going to keep. I'm observing this, and I'm not going to capture it. But it was pulsating and being layered in front of my eyes. By the way, the Schumann resonance is 300 today. Again, you go on the website, no one can explain what's going on, because it's unheard territory. It typically, I think early part of 2000, it was 170. That's the highest it had ever been recorded. That the range of 800, from 170 to 800 to 450 to 300, this is crazy territory. Okay? But I want you to, I'm telling you, so I'm going to thread all of this together, because these multiple rings, the sun behind the sun, behind the sun, behind the sun, all these multiple rings, is making me connect to the actual divergence of multiple realities and multiple suns. The energy for the past 2 days have been so high for me, and I have a sense that the reason I'm perceiving this and I'm particularly capturing this, it's because I let go. I pass one of my current dweller in the threshold test. And whatever the weight was, the albatross and the anvil that was around my neck, I was able to let it go. And the moment it happened, it propelled me into something else. I mean, literally the next day. And I want to play one more thing for you. I'm going to share my screen again. It's a video that shows, it's called the Tesseract. It's a cube seen in 4 dimensions. Okay? Here it is. Let me blow it up so that you can all see it. I'll play it again so that you can all see it. Okay, let's stop this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop YouTube. Give me a second. One of the qualities of sorry about the music, but one of the qualities of higher densities that are not 3D or 3Ds and above is that you begin to perceive things dynamically from beginning to end. You don't perceive fixed in 3D time-space continuum as a fixed point. You begin to perceive things layered from beginning to end. So let's say you're looking at an object, instead of seeing the object as a solid in 3D space, in 4D and 5D, you see a series, you see the evolution of the object from its creation to its end. You see all of it simultaneously. And this is one of the things that got captured in that picture. You're seeing all the multiple layers. So I want you to understand this and understand that the work is real, and if you're doing it, it shows up for you in a very powerful way. And more to the point, again, more to the point, I want you to also understand that whatever is showing up in your life, even if it's happening in someone else's life, but if you're involved in it, it exists in your life in some ways. Look for it. I am inviting you to understand that everything is a mirror. So the fact that my student was having this issue with the dweller as an experience, I knew somewhere the dweller had to also be happening in my life. And I took the time to go deep and go deep until I found what was for me the most toxic thing for the year. And the moment I went in and I realized that this person who was asking, there was no sound in the video, Marjorie.
No, your voice went down.
Is my voice still down now? Can you hear me?
It's lower than usual.
Okay, let me shut off the video. Hold on. Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me?
Somewhat. Enough, but not as usual, at least from my perspective.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with the volume.
It seems better than it was.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna. Yeah. Is it better now?
Better.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
It was because YouTube was still running in the background. Sorry. So I'm inviting you to begin to examine the ways in which you you may have, particularly the past year, the toxicity, the relationship, the connections, the things in your life that makes you unhappy, that makes you feel cringy, that makes you feel that, what were these things? And in what way can you change those things in your life going into this new year that's coming in? Because my thing was that 2021 is gonna find me correct It's going to find me right. I'm not going to allow this toxicity to continue, because the moment I realized the past 6 months has been, this is the thing that's been, it's been eating away at me, because it's a blind spot. I didn't see it because it's feeding on my I want to save the world, self-sacrifice program. I didn't see it. But to anyone else that was the outside watching it, they would have seen it, but I was not aware of it. And the moment I saw it, I'm like, okay, that's it. Relationship ends. And I was trying to be nice. I sent a couple of email, text, and all that. The other person was like not seeing it. I'm like, okay, the best way I can say this to you, the relationship is one-sided, and I'm going to be as nice as I can be, but you're parasitically existing through me, through my light and my energy. You're being like a parasite. And I'm cutting it off, because I will not have this going forward for this year. I'm done. So for us going forward, and I'm not putting you on the spot now for you to self-examine and try to figure if there's such a thing that exists in your life at this moment, but in your moments of meditation, pay attention to the things in your life that were cringeworthy. Maybe you've already dealt with it. Maybe you've already, your aha moment already occurred. It could have happened already for you, okay? But it was, my journey is that I just realized it a few days before the end of the year, and I terminated the whole thing. And it literally, it's like I felt literally like I had all this weight, and all of a sudden it was like, the moment I said what I needed to say, I felt like jubilant, like I had a boost of energy. Remember, the dweller test, or it's I don't know if any of you ever watch Star Trek, but I think Janice does watch Star Trek. But there was a being called Q, who was existing in the Q continuum, that came to connect with Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Enterprise. And he tested Jean-Luc about something, and Jean-Luc passed the test, and Jean-Luc kept thinking, okay, we passed the test. And then he kept showing up 4 episodes after that, and after that. And basically the test never ends. He was the dweller. He was testing them all the time on their growth and evolution, because it so turned out that this being, this Q being was a what do you call that? Omnipotent godlike being that could do anything. So I'm saying that the dweller on the threshold test never ends, that it always keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. So we need to be mindful of this, and intermittently, particularly at every moment when you're having a next level of growth, it will show up. And as I said, the Schumann resonance yesterday was 450, today 300. So the energy, in some ways, for me, is very euphoric. It's quite extraordinary. There's incredible clarity and simplicity. Everything becomes so much easier, particularly because we've been preparing for this. And as I just showed you in the video, the tesseract, which is the three-dimensional cube that shows the cube in all of its reiteration and form, dynamically evolving and growing. This is the way you perceive in higher densities. You don't perceive anything as being static. Everything is perpetually becoming. So as such, we should understand that when we're beginning to perceive, and who knows, that picture that I took, maybe it's a 2D still of what the horizon for the new earth really looks like. I'm just postulating. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm just postulating the picture I just showed you. Any questions, any comments? Now, I know this year there is a lot of things that are afoot. The political landscape is gonna look crazy in the next few days. And you're gonna easily be, if you're watching all of this, forced to go into I'm with him, I'm with her, choose sides. I am trying to remind you that if you get yourself entangled and attached to any outcome, you've lost your way, and you're not neutral enough to be able to figure out where this new earth test, because this is a test, it's a collective test, is. It's gonna get crazy, and it may end up with riot in the street, even war. I've channeled this, I've said this over and over again. We need to stay away from this, remain neutral. If you don't have to be outside or near any of these public buildings where these things are taking place, do not go in those vicinities. Because something is gonna explode. And I'm not the only one that's saying this. Astrologers who are doing all the chart are saying exactly the same thing. So I'm saying that we need to mind how we react to these events. As Lord Buddha said, life is suffering, but all suffering comes from the wrong perception. So what kind of emotion are you going to project in any of these events? Whether you're condemning this side or that side, you don't take any side. Walk away from the whole thing. And the only side that should be your concern is your side, which is, how am I feeling about this? And I'm feeling wrong about that or right about that. I am not in the right place. I need to figure out a way to become neutral to all of it. And get myself, because what's going to happen is already decided. This is the truth. I remember a conversation in the second matrix where Neo met with the oracle, and the oracle, he asked the oracle something, and the oracle said something else, and he responded, so you already know what I'm going to do. And she responded by saying, I wouldn't be much of an oracle. No. And then he responded, so how do I make a decision if you already know what I'm going to say? She looked at him, she said, I thought you would figure this out by now. You didn't come here to make the decision. You've already made the choice. You came here to understand the choice you've already made. Now listen to this very carefully. So what I'm saying to you is that in the course of what's going to happen planetarily, this explosive moment that this country is going to experience in the next few months, people already made their choice. I'm trying to alert you so that you don't emotionally become so entangled that you yourself end up making emotionally a commitment to something because of enragement, because you thought people were behaving in outlandish ways. How can people do this? It's against every principle, blah, blah, blah. And if you get yourself caught into this, you are gonna go to the wrong place. You're gonna shift and move in a territory where you're caught in a glue trap and you wouldn't be able to get out. keep up with your spiritual practice, mind what you're doing, and remain internal, and let all of this slide like off of you like water off a duck's back. Just let it slide. Let it slide right out. You're not going to change anybody by your emotional reaction. And choosing this side or that side of this argument is not where you're going. You're going toward the new earth. And if you're going to the new earth, neither side of this polarization is the new earth. And there's no reason for you to emotionally invest in it. Move forward, not sideways. Master Dwakul used to talk about moving, don't move horizontally, move vertically. Because choosing either side is moving horizontally. Working toward your detachment to all of the theater that's going to happen around you and remaining neutral, that's you moving vertically instead of horizontally. So I'm trying to forewarn you. I've said this almost for 5 years. It literally it's a few days away. It's gonna start. The curtain is gonna open and it's the theater is gonna start. So don't be surprised. Don't act surprised. Know that you've already made a different choice. And the process of you aligning yourself to the neutrality, it's because you're trying now to understand the neutral choice that you made. Because you belong to the third path. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yep.
I am inviting you also, any of you, if you're interested, if you have any comments or anything along the line of the conversation that we're having today, if you want to share it with us, it would be a great time for us to do so before I move forward with additional topics.
So Pierre,
Yes.
it's an illusion that's going to be happening in order to defer us from where we're supposed to be going.
Yes.
That-
This is a collective dweller on the threshold experience. The same way for 6 months, I had an albatross that was playing on my weakest point, which is my self-sacrifice thing. I'm going to save the world. So somebody's reaching out to me with all of these problems, and the problems were multiplying. Every time you turn, every week there was a different problem, a different chaos. Could you help me with this, that, or the other? And here I am running. Okay, I'll take care of this. And I did this for 6 months. Again, blinded, not seeing it. So this is my own personal example, but collectively with what's going to happen politically in this country, in the United States anyway, it looks like what I have been predicted is at the beginning of a civil war, of a giant bifurcation and separation. It's going to happen the end of this week. It's going to begin, actively begin. It's already started. And again, the players already made their decision.
Yeah.
They're just going to try to understand the decision they've already made. I'm trying to remind you that this is not your decision. Just like the Matrix said to Neo when Neo said, so why am I here? I can't make a choice if you already know everything. And she said, I thought you would figure this out. You didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made the choice. You came here to understand the choice that you made. So the process of the next few weeks is that you have to align yourself to neutrality so that you can understand the choice, which is the path, the third path, not the bifurcation, not getting yourself polarized and going horizontally, but going vertically by saying, I'm ascending, I'm lifting myself up to something that's higher. I've read something from an astrologer today, an analysis of all the planet and what's going on with Saturn. And, you know, I'm not an astrologer, but I read something today and I was like, okay, this aligns perfectly with what I've been channeling since 2015. And it's not just January 6th, it's also the date of the inauguration as well. There are all kind of astrological things that all, something big is going to happen. And we need to be prepared for this and not be surprised by what's going on. Again, these people made their choice, they're just playing it out. And since we are aligning ourselves to, like I showed you in the picture, to this higher density where we can see the beginning and the end simultaneously of everything, we need to make sure that we are moving in that direction by remaining neutral to the theater that you're going to witness. Anybody else?
Sounds like you're telling us to watch as well as pray.
Yes. Yes, prayer is always phenomenal. There's nothing like it. And again, when you meditate, you listen to God. When you pray, you talk to God. And a good spiritual practice involves both.
Agreed.
Yes. Yes.
And agree about I had a few instances where I was holding on to things that showed up to me right around the transition to 2021 that I needed to let go of, and in a way where I was kind of not understanding, like you said, kind of a blind spot, but I was feeling uncomfortable with it. And it showed up and I let go, and I do feel much better. So definitely agree with what you just said. And also everything you said about what is to happen in the United States.
Yep. Yep. I'm so glad you're also confirming this, Malcolm, because
yeah.
You know, that process, it was a huge blind spot. I didn't see it at the time. But my body knew it. I'm telling you, through meditation, energetically, it said to me, literally, you have cancer.
Yeah.
Because I was holding on to something that was so toxic, it was poisoning me.
Yeah.
And in the guise of me rescuing, you know, I love stray animal and stray pets. But not to the degree that they're actually gonna kill me. I have to choose myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've sacrificed, I'm sure, in past lives, but this lifetime's a different choice, right?
Yes, exactly. And clear enough, I had past life connected to this person, but I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
This
was a student?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm like, I'm somebody that reached out to me asking for help, and I'm done. I'm like, I'm done. You know, I'm not responsible for you. Yeah. Learn to swim. Okay. I'm done carrying you and putting you on my back. I'm not drowning anymore.
Yeah.
I swallow half of the ocean for you in 6 months. I'm not drowning anymore.
You had a lot of those in the past.
Yes, exactly.
The things that we experienced. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so it was a huge, and again, I have to thank my student who was going through her own dweller on the threshold. Student was taking the Ascendance Applying Leadership class, and she went through her own dweller on the threshold experience, and somehow I got involved in the fray of all of that blow up. And when I got involved, because of the way I've been training myself over the years, if I'm going through something externally and I'm somehow involved in it, it's a mirror. There's a part of me, although yes, it's happening to her, she's the one going through the dweller. So which part of me is reflected inside? Which part of this experience is reflected inside of me? And as I went deeper and deeper, I'm like, there's a dweller hiding somewhere inside of me. And it showed up for me. I saw it. So it was, and I have to thank the universe for reflecting that experience that she went through to me to give me the opportunity to jump into my own stuff. Because without that experience, I would have never thought the relationship would have still, the toxic relationship would have still continued. I would not have caught it. I'm trying to share these with you, and they are very intimate and personal, but I want you to understand the true dynamic of how you achieve self-mastery. It's not a book reading and you do X, Y, Z and you do this practice and this meditation. Where the rubber meets the road is in your real life. And when you have a blind spot, you don't see it. I'm trying to share this with you and be as honest and as candid as possible to demonstrate to you how I caught this, how it took me 6 months to figure out, because I want you to understand what the real work really looks like. It's not some sort of like high energy and all of a sudden you're floating in air and everything is levitating and the angels are flying about you and you're seeing unicorn and puffy clouds. Yeah, there are those moments, but part of it also has to do with you going deep within and realizing, okay, this whole experience because when I analyzed my life for the past year, that was the one connection and the one thing that when I did every time I engage, maybe not the first few times, but after that, every time I engaged, something inside of me clenched. I muscle through it. I'm in a Capricorn. We muscle through things, No matter how difficult the mountain is, you're going to climb it. I'm going to rescue this. I'm going to help this person. I'm going to, I am the super being. I'm going to carry the load of the world with me. And the moment I saw this, I'm like, okay, this ends. Because it's not about this person. And the moment I realized this person was highly infected with archon energy. Never saw it before because I had the blind spot. I didn't see it. Because when you have a blind spot, that's exactly what it is. You can't see clearly. It's not that I didn't know, because in hindsight, you have 2020, energetically, my body was giving me all the warning. But I didn't want to look at it because it was being overridden by my false access, my false belief that I was the rescuer and I was going to help save, I was going to help pull them out from darkness. It's a deep lesson for me. Again, the dweller on the threshold test never completely ends. Every time you're about to peak to a higher vertical position on the dimensional scale, it will show up again. And every time it will try to penetrate into a weak spot because it's customized to you. It will become a weak spot in your in your spiritual psychology to cause you to be completely blinded to it, because it has to be a real test. It's not going to give you something that's easy that you're going to see visibly like this.
Before enlightenment, chop would carry water. After enlightenment, chop would carry water.
Amen.
Work
Lord.
never ends.
Yes, amen, amen. That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And as we move forward, I mean, judging by the picture I had shown you earlier just now of the sun and the focus, the zoom in into that picture, I can tell you that what we are promised, if this is the landscape, if this is a two-dimensional still of what that landscape. Because when I saw it with my bare eyes, I was in awe because it was dynamically moving. There was sun behind sun behind sun. That was the whole. You know how in movies they do a trailing, and then somebody moves their arm, and you see 1,000 arms moving. This is what I saw as I was walking with my bare eyes, not with the camera, with my bare eyes. So if this is the landscape of, and this is probably how the divergence of different parallel realities will begin to happen. Now, if this is the landscape we're going to go into, then I welcome it. I'm so happy about this. But simultaneously, I know that if I was still carrying that anvil around my neck, I would not have perceived this. I know if I didn't pass that dweller test, I would have never perceived this. I wouldn't be able to have captured that picture. So as this year is moving forward, before you leap completely into the newness, make sure you're not carrying these old baggages. Make sure, or maybe you have already emptied everything out. That's very possible that the work has already been done, because a lot of you have been doing some profound and deep work already. And that is the case. Kudos, wonderful. Let's move forward, because the Schumann resonance is trying to tell us the outside forces, meaning the cosmic energy, the light of the galactic equator, which is truth, authenticity, and transparency, is coming in. And it's pushing the Schumann resonance now 2 days straight in a territory that no scientist, no one can explain. It's unheard territory. At first, when it was 800, I thought that was about a month ago, no, 3 weeks ago. I thought it was a mistake. I went on the website. I kept checking online. I'm like, it has to be a mistake. It can't be 800. Remember, the light of the galactic equator is truth, authenticity, and transparency. And I want to go over these items because I want you to understand what you're dealing with. Okay? If you don't mind, we're going to go into this right now. Truth. Let's start with the first one. Let me explain, of course, the dynamics. Sorry. I want to explain what's going on. So our solar system and the Earth rotates around the sun, but the sun and our entire solar system is rotating around the galactic core. A full rotation around the galactic core takes 250 million years. That's one galactic year. But in the process of this full galactic year rotation, the sun and our entire solar system and the Earth, not only because we are in the galactic, the Milky Way galaxy has a thickness of 100 light years across. Okay, and we are in the middle of it for most of the time, but every 31 million years, we wobble in the process of rotating around. We don't go straight always in the middle of it. We wobble up or down, and when we go off the crust of the Milky Way, and when we wobble up and down, we face the light of the galactic equator directly. And this is called the galactic equator crossing. And every time this happens, sentient life form on planets that have crests are able to ascend en masse. And at those points, the galactic masters call these moments the great harvest, because people can move forward and leap forward in ascendance and innovation. And the light of that equator is truth, authenticity, and transparency. Now, let's start with truth. What does that mean? Well, it means that all secrets will be revealed. That whatever was hidden, whatever was closeted, whatever was in hiding will show up. Okay? And you have seen it being displayed over the past 4 or 5 years. Today, there was a recording of the current president trying to influence the Georgia Attorney General to give him 11,708 votes. This is something that happened this Saturday. Somebody already leaked it. Okay? Secrets are going to be revealed. Whatever was hidden will show up. Whatever secret that you're hiding, someone is going to find it out, and it's going to be in plain sight. This is what this energy is trying to bring. It's an energy that brings the truth. But there is a caveat, because truth is relative. What I mean to say is that if the galactic masters were to try to reveal their truth to us, most of us would dissolve and cease to be, or we would pee on ourselves immediately, because we wouldn't be able to handle this kind of high level of awareness. Or we would pass out. Often enough during meditation and healing, many of us have experiences where we begin to see things, all of a sudden we go right to sleep for the rest of the healing. It's because our consciousness is not prepared to receive to see beyond a certain point. Why? Because we all have what I call the Zerapin, which is the shield of David protection, boundary protection, that we have to break through in order for us to see beyond a certain level. And that in itself is a process. So if that light of truth shows up and it's too strong, most of us will not be able to stare at it. It is like trying to stare directly into the sun. There's a certain level of truth that's so powerful that it will blind you. So keeping this in mind, we should be aware that what's going on as truth gets revealed. And this is why I am very careful, and I don't make any I don't take any position on any mass media right now. Because I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, because the understanding that I have of what's going on, I am not going to try to push it on anybody, because they are not prepared and not ready to see it. Because my truth is not going to be their truth. What I'm seeing, what I'm perceiving, what I'm understanding, what I am asserting, what is emerging from me about the kind of conversation that I'm having candidly with you or studying with me. I can't have this on a mass media platform. I can't talk about this on Instagram or on Facebook or any of the other, or Twitter or any other mass media platform, because no one is going to be prepared to understand that level of candor and that level of disclosure. So the fact that I have a certain level of truth, it doesn't mean that I have to go on a platform and start screaming from the top of my lung and try to convert and bring people with me. The same way God was able to reach me internally in my own process and help me get to this, allowing me time to move to multiple layers of Zerapin so that I can get to it, God is capable of doing the same thing for your neighbor and for your family members. Leave them alone. If they ask you, you can talk to them. But leave them alone. Let them figure it out on their own. The truth that you know, you should not go out there and try to force that truth down everybody's throat. Because guess what? The people who are following Trump know for sure that they are saying the truth. The people who are with Biden know that they're saying that. So what I'm saying is that it's relative to the level of consciousness that you're holding. There was a scene, again, going back to the metrics, when Neo asked the oracle a question about what was going to happen in the future. And then the oracle looked at him about what was going to happen. And the oracle said, I don't know. Neo looked at him, you're the oracle. How come you don't know? She said, I told you before, no one is able to see past a truth that they are not prepared to understand. I am not prepared to understand this right now. That whole conversation, I've listened to it at least 20 times, that little clip, because there's so much truth in it. So there are times when information are being presented to you in the world that's out there, the mass media, and there are moments where you're not prepared to see beyond a certain point. And no matter what people say, you're not going to hear them. You're not going to see it. You're not going to hear it. And you can't say, well, how come they're not seeing it? It's so plain. It's so visible. It's visible and plain to you because you're ready to understand it. And you don't have the Zerapin that they have. You don't have the blind spot that they have. They can't see it because the blind spots are holding them prisoner. And they have to go through a whole process that's going to be personal, intimate for them to go through this process so that the blind spot will be removed. And then they can say, aha, what he was saying was right. But it needs to happen in their own personal timing.
If ever. It might not happen for them in this lifetime.
Exactly. It may not be in this lifetime. Exactly. And it's not for you to judge and to say anything about. And be careful out there, because there are people that I consider to be light workers who are completely, they're pushing all kind of conspiracy theory, all kinds of stuff. And I'm not there to judge them, because that's the level of truth that they exist in right at this moment. Again, the relativity of truth. Authenticity. Let's talk about this. Many people interpret authenticity in a very different way. And I've witnessed a lot of people in the light community interpreting it as them being raw, authentic, blah, 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 and with this kind of quotes around it. And for them being raw or authentic is for them to be what I call an emotional flasher. Okay? They literally open all their heart out and they flash their internal chaos and disorder, and thinking that this is what authenticity is. It is not. Because a lot of time I noticed that a lot of these people who are posting about this, they are actually displaying their vulgarity, their rage, and their anger. And they think that's what it is to be authentic. By them putting F word and saying curse this and curse that, and this is them being authentic. Your authenticity is actually a fragile, breakable, and vulnerable point that exists deep in your core. And that vulnerable point is something that you know is so sacred that you have buried it deep, deep, deep. And in some cases, people bury it so deep, they don't even have a map how to get to it after a while. They've lost a way to get to it. But they know it's truly a part of themselves that if they were to show it to the world would laugh at them and ridicule them. And they cannot let people see that part of themselves because it would break them to pieces. That's vulnerability. That's authenticity. When you that part of you is so deeply personal that even if you were disenfranchised from it for a while and you found it, when you get to it the first time, even you know, when you look at it, I should not show this to the rest of the world. I have to hide this even deeper because people are going to hurt me if they know this about me. Yet, the opposite is actually true. Because to the degree that you can find the courage, which is the theme for evolution of this entire universe, to the degree that you can find the courage to expose this part of you forward and let the rest of the world see this, it's to the degree that you will be rewarded by something else. Let me explain. Your vulnerability, that authentic core, is not a weakness because we see it as a weakness. And I'm going to tell you why. Because as we grow up and get domesticated, we very quickly understand that that part of us has to be buried because the world, the outside world, is trying to domesticate us into being a cookie cutter to everyone else that's around us. And nobody wants to be so different that you're ostracized and you're ridiculed. So that part of you that's so authentic and so raw that it is actually the unique manifestation of the divine that you really are. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. That authentic core, that vulnerable point that you don't want anyone to see, is actually the unique manifestation of the divine that you are. And instead of you understanding and fulfilling your life purpose, which is to fulfill your unique expression of the divine, we do the exact opposite. We bury it. We bury it deep and we refuse to show it to anyone. What I'm saying to you right now is that you have to do the opposite with this. You have to find the courage to somehow allow that part of you that you've buried so deeply, that's the unique expression of that vulnerable divinity that's within you. You have to find a way to let the world see it. Now, I'm not telling you to take a New York Times op-ed and publish all of that part of you. What I'm saying, and initially you might find someone that loves you, one person, and you might want to share that part of you with them and let that be expressed. And if you can, the best way to say this, that vulnerable point of view is not a weakness. It is a superpower. Because the moment you can break that, because the other way to understand this is that everything else that you've done in your life that does not include that vulnerability is a lie. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. Everything else that you have done, because in order for us to survive, we have created personas, masks that you create when you're around the family, masks you create around coworker, masks that you create when you're a lover, masks you create around when you're in public. We have thousands of them, but they are not the true expression of our divinity. So if you're going to be truthful with yourself and be really authentic, you have to find a way to let that part. So the best way to describe this is that your authenticity is connected to a vulnerable experience. And that vulnerable experience is the core essence of who and what you are. And I don't mean for you to tell people all your vices and all the things that are going on. This is not what it is about. It's simply a feeling that you have that if anybody knows these little things about you, you would be destroyed. And finding a way to express this to the world in some ways. And when you do this, something extraordinary happens. My personal journey with this kind of like a space has been that when I begin to express this initially, people were muted. They looked at me like I had 5 heads. And it used to destroy me. And I'm thinking to myself, I did it again. Go back, hide it, go deeper. Don't let anybody see it. And it took me a while until about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was in Los Angeles to this meeting, that I realized when I expressed this and people started looking at me strange again. And I thought, oh, here we go again. And I started crying. I literally started crying. And this one woman, Sharon, came up to me and gave me a hug. I'm so happy that you shared this. And at that moment, I realized it's not that these people were ridiculing me and saying, you're Quasimodo, because my biggest fear is that I was going to be treated like Quasimodo from Alexandre Dumas on the Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was always my biggest fear. They're going to ridicule me. And the moment what I realized at that very moment, the epiphany was that, no, that wasn't the case. What I was saying was so advanced, they were muted and they were trying to process it. Because when you share from that space with the world and you truly express your unique expression of God to them, they are going to be shell-shocked initially. Because you're reminding them that they too have a vulnerable point inside of them that they have not accessed and that they need to access. And what you're doing by expressing it, you're giving them permission for them to find that part in them, and so that they can too have freedom and be liberated. This is why it's a superpower. Every time I go with a new group where I'm going to speak, and whether I'm doing a book signing or I'm with a new group of whatever, for the first 5 or 6 minutes, I'm talking generally at a level that's kind of general, because I am still feeling very vulnerable to people I don't know that I'm going to have to open up to. And it takes me a minute to get to that point where I feel I'm okay now. I can open up and I can begin to share from a place of my authentic core. Till today, for example, when I'm channeling live, I will allow people to do the audio recording. I will not allow anyone to record video, because I feel too vulnerable when the video is recorded. I'm still processing all of this. The audio I'm fine with, but the you can take pictures, it's fine as well, but I don't want to see a video of this. Because I don't want to be seen as Quasimodo in a trance with my eyeball rolled back and all kind of crazy stuff. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be judged. This is me being authentic, and this is me being truthful. I will allow this one part, but I'm not at a point, maybe at some point in the future, I will be okay with this, but I'm not at this moment. And I'm trying to make you understand that all of this come it's for you to try to figure out how you feel, where you are in the spectrum of expressing either truth or authenticity in your life. I keep saying all the time, if you're doing a presentation or you're doing a lecture or something, and you don't have a moment where you feel vulnerable, it's not being done right. Because that vulnerability has to show. Now, a lot of famous people, even somebody like a very famous singer like Adele, every time she's about to go on stage, she's world famous. She's sold arenas everywhere, and she has an incredible voice. She says every time she's about to go on stage, there are times she tried to run out of the theater. They have to catch her. They have to lock the door. She tried to run out because she thinks that she's a fake and she will not be able to sing. Yet every time she opens her mouth, it's magic. I know that Janice is not here tonight, but she confessed she's an opera singer. She had an illustrious career, 3 times around the world, and all of that as a mezzo soprano. Like every major orchestra around the world, she sang with them, and she says the same thing. She says it takes a minute when she shows up on stage. It's always the same thing. You feel like you're gonna be a major failure. And the moment she begins to sing the first few notes, she lets surrender and let go, and the music just flows out of her like magic. Transparency. Let's talk about that. Again, people have to be very careful. We all have to be very careful. Just because you're going through an experience and you're trying to be vulnerable, it doesn't mean that the world has to know it. There are sense of omission and sense of commission. And there are certain things and certain truth that people are not prepared to hear. Just because there is transparency doesn't mean that at the time I have to tell you, all the secret and tell you everything that's going on. There is such a thing as TMI, or too much information. And people are not often prepared to know certain kind of detailed information. There are times, in other words, use your discernment. There are moments that one of the other things that I do when this is all about transparency and communicating the right way. There are moments, for example, when I'm presenting a class or a lecture, for the first 3 or 4 minutes, it's not just the vulnerability, again, that I'm connecting to, but I'm trying to find the vibration or the frequency at which the crowd is in, collectively, as a group body. And I'm trying to find that common denominator so that I can deliver what I'm presenting at their level so that they can understand it. The other analogy that I could use is Master Jesus taking high and profound spiritual truth and telling little children these truths as a way to bring profound knowledge in such a simple way that anyone can get it. So as I'm being transparent and telling people the truth, a lot of time the way the truth comes across and has to come across at the level that the person is ready to receive it. And I'm gonna use a one-on-one situation to explain this. A lot of time clients and people come to me for coaching and they have issues that they're dealing with. And at the moment of them showing up, talking about their stories, because I'm in morphogenic listening, I very quickly know where the issue is. Okay? And because I do know where the issue is, I see the truth. But I am not the healer. Just because I see it, it doesn't mean that I have to communicate it out. Because a lot of time, because the healer is in the client. It's the higher self of the client. And a lot of time, the information that I see at the very moment I see it, they are now not prepared to hear it. So I have a lot of conversation when the fan opened up and I'm a morphogenic listening and I see three different things. They're talking about one thing, and it may be true in this one part of the fan, but there are other part of it that they're not seeing that I'm seeing. Just because I see it doesn't mean I have to shove all of it down their throat. I think a lot of people in the light community have verbal diarrhea. And they think just because they see something, they have to see it. You don't have to prove to the person you're talking to that you're a great healer and you have all of this insight. And look at, I'm gonna force a breakthrough for you. I don't have to prove this to you. But I am going to ask your higher self to calibrate and guide me, because your higher self is the healer. Guide me and calibrate to a level so that I can give you the information at the level that you are able to assimilate at this moment. Now, if we continue in the process, maybe at some later point, I can tell you the rest. I can disclose and be transparent about the rest of the thing that I saw. I remember having an experience with a student of mine, this is years ago, and there was a behavior I was noticing, and I didn't say it because I didn't have the permission. This went on for a while, and it was like almost 8 months later, and I finally got the permission. And the way I got the permission was funny, because he had a dream after class. He said, I have to talk to you, I have this dream that really bothered me. And he explained the dream to me, and the dream is exactly the part that I saw that I couldn't tell him. And I realized, okay, this is the permission. And I begin to tell him about this. And it's interesting because he's very smart. After I told him this whole thing, he was so in shock, and he looked at me and says, how long have you known this? I said, for about 8 months. And we both started laughing about it, because I was talking about these principles in class. We both started laughing about it. I said, your higher self you're not ready. I couldn't say it before. Sense of omission, sense of commission. You are not the healer. There are certain things that you know. If you were to say it to other people, you would fracture them. You would actually traumatize them and hurt them. There are things that you know you have to hold your peace. You have to stay quiet because they are not prepared to hear it. Their Zerapine is holding them back. They're not ready.
Yeah, I had a few experiences like that. I used to have a very straightforward. Sometimes I would say things straightforward when I would see them, and it cost me a few people in the past that I stopped doing it. And it took years for things to kind of get back together. So yeah, it definitely teaches you to say when they're ready and not say everything you see.
Yes. Yes. Go in your heart. Oh, do you think that you're ready for this? And talk to the higher self of the person. I do a lot of that in coaching. You talk to the higher self of the person, they're not ready. So and I don't lie to them. I tell them something about what they're struggling with, but I ask the higher self, give me a way to calibrate this and give me so that at the frequency they're at, I can tell them something. So I do tell them something. I give them breadcrumbs so that they can get to the Zerapine and they can break through. And at which point I can reveal the rest. You have to respect other people's process. And when I'm in a crowd, I do the same thing to the group body. I try to sense where they are so that I'm trying to be transparent and tell them the whole truth. But there's certain truth about Tesseract and this, that, or the other. Could you imagine somebody that just started on this path and I have this conversation I'm having with you right now? They would run out. They'll think I'm crazy. first of all, they would not understand part of it, or the part of them will protest. You know, they would not be having a good time. Let's just put it this way. So as this energy is going around, truth, authenticity, and transparency, it's personally affecting you in a way to connect to what really is your truth as opposed to someone else's truth. It's also connecting you to you being with your vulnerability and your authenticity. And then how you transmit all of this by being transparent. There are certain things that people are not prepared to see about themselves or about you. Like every time somebody's asked me, so what do you do for a living? It's always this whole thing. I'm like, okay, oh boy. So how do I answer this? You know, what's the filter? What's the language that I have to say? I don't want to lie to anybody. But at the same time, I can't tell them the whole thing because a lot of time people are not prepared to hear it. Or when you tell them, they're like, huh? They become like Scooby-Doo. One ear goes up, huh? Your Starseed Ascension teacher. What was that? If you tell people you're an Ascension teacher, they're like, what are you talking about? Then you have to go through a whole 10-minute conversation about what Ascension is. So it's to find the right filter to be able to say what you need to say to the level that the person in front of you can comprehend it. Because a lot of time, again, because truth is relative, the way you transmit your truth has to also have that kind of measure in it. Any questions or any comments? No questions? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I moved and I came back. I didn't hear anything. All right.
We're taking a break, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your head and your heart sync with each other. And realize that you can perceive 360 degrees. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. As you enter into a state of morphogenic listening. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Become aware of all of the personas, masks, and false personalities that are camouflaging and hiding your authentic core. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. and without judgment or prejudice. Notice what you noticed. Pay attention to all these various parts that compose your psyche. Now find your authentic self. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And whatever is present in front of you, if it is not your authentic self, move it behind you. Notice what you noticed. Become the witness as you continue to search for your authentic core. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And whatever masks or false axes that may show up for you, put them behind you. And continue on your quest to find your authentic core. Continue to breathe in deeply and slowly. And whatever false personality may show up, put them behind you. Now find your authentic nature. Your authentic core and nature is a fragile, vulnerable, extinguishable, point that exists deep in you. Locate this point of extreme vulnerability. It is that part of you that is so holy, so pure and innocent, that even you looking at it is almost sacrilege. Become completely aware of this fragility and vulnerability. And understand that this is not a weakness. It is your superpower. It is your unique expression of the divine. And it is the key to your freedom and liberation. It is your higher virtue, your unique core frequency. And no one can become enlightened without showing this to the world. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your light shine. Radiate this uniqueness and let it broadcast and be released from you. Expanding 10 feet wide expanding 20 feet wide. Expanding 40 feet wide. 60 feet wide. Expanding to the degree that you're comfortable demonstrating this light and this uniqueness. To the world. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I like the meditation. It's good.
Wonderful.
Moving the things behind you and is really good.
Beautiful. How are we all doing? Everybody okay? Wonderful.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. That's great. That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. And if the more you go back into that space, the clearer it will be for you, the more you'll be able to, own it and get connected to whatever that core frequency is for you. Any questions or any comments before we close? What I want to say before we go is that judging by the Schumann resonance, if we're doing the whole thing right, this is going to be like a landmark here for us who are doing the work. Okay,
Yay.
be a landmark year for us who are doing the work.
Yeah.
Because the outside, the Deus ex machina, the light of truth, authenticity, and transparency is supporting us.
Yeah.
We got people, okay?
I love it.
We got people.
It's an army.
Yes, we got people.
We have our own army.
It was supporting us tonight for sure.
Yeah.
Those were some deep, deep messages and teachings.
Yes, yes.
Very
Yeah.
a big call, quite a call to action.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, yes. Wonderful, wonderful. I love you all so much, so much, so much. Let's do this. We
Do this.
we got people. You know, when in a schoolyard, bullies are trying to touch you. So, I got people. You know? Love you all. Good night.
Love you,
Love
Pierre.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.